Today, we're looking at another brown ink by Wancher, Chocolate Brown. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. There's timestamps down below so that if you are only interested in certain parts, you can skip around, but if you've got the time, please check out the entire video. Also, you can follow me over on Instagram, and if you like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put it into this Noodler's Neponset with a music nib. I wrote with it for a day. I then used it to take the notes for this video. In order to standardize some of the writing sample, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Now, more papers are tested, and they'll show up a bit later. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I have a bottle of this ink. And to make sure I keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is slightly lighter than the stub, with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 15 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, and we really didn't get it. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. 15 seconds to dry. Now, the medium is darker than the extra fine, just slightly lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. 22 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, and we didn't get it. Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. 7 seconds to dry. The medium is darker than the extra fine, but not quite as dark as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. 13 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no real color variation. We didn't expect it, and we didn't get it. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this kind of magenta grayish tone push its way up. We see some red come across. Then we see this yellow and kind of a turquoise blue. It's a very complex ink. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And the truth of the matter is you don't see a whole lot of difference between the two of these. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, just don't use this in a note-taking situation. It's not worth it to lose that much. Water's not doing a whole lot. It's moving around all the darkest tones, but it's really leaving a lot behind, just like pen flush is. Pen flush is really not doing a whole lot getting rid of all of this ink. Now, the 1/3 bleach solution is completely removing it from the paper. It's leaving a slight bit of color discoloration on the paper. If you use the 1/3 bleach solution, that was only 30 seconds, which means you can put it straight through your pen and straight to water to clean it out. I test viscosity or flow with a thing called a tilt test. I'll link it somewhere down below or up in the cards. Now, for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Wancher's Original Chocolate Brown has a viscosity of 2.62, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average those, and for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Wancher's Original Chocolate Brown has an average dry time of 14 seconds, making it again normal. I put this in here where I'm putting their chromatography side by side because I talked about how similar to Asuka Brown this was. Now, just to start by looking at the chromatographies, because we really get to see how the inks are made up. What I see is some of these bottom tones are the same, but this one on the left, which is the Asuka Brown, is more permanent than the one from the Chocolate Brown. The blues are very much the same that are in there, that kind of turquoise blue at the top. And the magenta tone is very similar to that red tone. It is more magenta and that's more red. They're very similar to each other. And that's looking at the chromatography. So we can see that they definitely are two very different inks. But now when we put the colors side by side, this becomes much harder to truly tell that difference. Yes, the Asuka Brown does have a magenta brown tone, and the Chocolate Brown is a brown tone. But I'm not really seeing the thing here that makes these, I mean, they're definitely two different tones, without a doubt. But it took getting them exactly side by side to really see that difference. I still kind of feel that the one is kind of a waste. The second writing sample is done on Fabriano, Mnemosyne, and Field Notes. Here we see it on Fabriano Echo Qua. We have no bleeding, some minor ghosting on the medium, but nothing that would stop most people from using the back. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 7 seconds to dry. The medium has no the medium's tone, slightly darker than the extra fine, not quite as dark as the stub. No feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 11 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get any. Mnemosyne. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 8 seconds to dry. The medium is about the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 15 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both show a little bit of color variation, far left to far right, but I really don't get it in the writing. Last up is Field Notes. Now Field Notes gets no bleeding. I had a note that I saw ghosting, but I'm not seeing it come through on camera. The 1.1 has a ton of feathering. It's gross. But this paper is not really made for fountain pen ink. No spread, halo, sheen, or shade with the stub. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub. The extra fine has no, well, it does. Its feathers really, really tiny and consistent. It gives the letters the jagged look, like the word over or the word lazy or the word dog, but not something that stops you from being able to read this. And 2 seconds to dry. Now the medium is quite a bit darker than the extra fine, about the same tone as the stub. It has a ton of feathering all over it. It's everything that's in the extra fine, but a bit more exaggerated, like the letter K in quick, the Q in quick, the word dog. So there's a ton of feathering all over this with the medium. Just if you're using an extra fine or fine and a drier pen, I'm sure it would work perfectly fine. No halo sheen, no shade, 3 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, and we didn't get it. And that is the end of the writing samples. So what do I think of Wancher Chocolate Brown? I feel like this was a waste of an ink. It's darker than Ahsoka Brown, which was already a very dark brown. I just really, starting off, go, man, I don't think I like these Wancher inks. Maybe that's what it is. I did not enjoy this. Wow. So what nib and pen would give the best writing experience with this ink? I think you need a very dry stub to have a chance of showing off any of the brown that this ink has to offer. I'm going to remind you that I'm here every day with a new ink review. Thanks for watching.